after the Germans had stopped shelling a little while, we heard one of their big ones coming over. And normally, within reason, you could tell if one was going to land anywhere near or not. If it was, the normal procedure was to throw yourself down and avoid the shell fragments. This one we knew was going to drop near. My pal shouted and threw himself down. I was too damn tired even to fall down. I stood there. Next, I had a terrific pain in the back and the chest, and I found myself face downwards in the mud.
In this permanent zone of destruction, where war seemed to be a fixture from time immemorial, stretching forward to invisible duration, sound was always there. The smell was always there.
The familiar trench smell of 1915 to 17 haunts my nostrils, compounded of stagnant mud, latrine buckets, chloride of lime, unburied or half-buried corpses, rotting sandbags, stale human sweat, fumes of cordite or lyddite. Sometimes it was sweetened by cigarette smoke and the scent of bacon frying over wood fires, broken ammunition boxes. Sometimes made sinister by the lingering odor of poison gas.
Within this unquiet zone, sharing its squalors and such compensations as it had, dwelt a population apart. The armies of Germany, France, the British Empire, and Belgium. And when the infantry looked upwards, admiringly, hopefully, or fearfully, they saw, dotted against the white clouds or the blue sky, the airmen, counted in thousands now, yet still able to preserve in this vast, anonymous war individual identities which the muddied infantry might envy. In the sky, they fought a war of champions. The names of the aces rang through every country. Guynemer, Fonck, Nurgesset, Ball, McCudden, Manock, Bölker, Immelmann, Richthofen. Looking down from their swaying cockpits, the flyers saw below them, as no one else could see, unfolding mile beyond mile, the incredible pockmarked devastation of the Western Front, the world within a world. Down there on the ground, men had few intimates. Beyond the narrow horizon through a periscope, or bordered by the traverse of a trench or the lip of a crater, there was someone else whom one had learned to know, better perhaps than one knew one's own people. Sometimes as little as 20 yards away, sometimes as much as half a mile, he was always there, living exactly as one lived oneself, the front-line enemy.
I never had any feelings towards any personal enemy. For me and also for most of the boys, it was the enemy. Whether it was a British or French, we didn't mind. And I think that the British thought in the same way. As soon as we made prisoners, the feeling of enemy was gone. Then we took care of them, we looked after them, we asked them if they were thirsty. Most of them were very thirsty, because warfare makes thirsty. You are very much excited, you perspire, you are afraid, everybody is shivering. The nerve strain is a terrible one, but never one forgets what each man on both sides has to undergo.
The enemy was Jerry, or Old Fritz. There were frontline soldiers who spoke openly of German comrades. Even the French had learned to use the word Boche in a half-friendly way. For Frenchmen fighting on their own soil, and always on the same worn-out, blood-soaked stretches of their soil, the sense of separateness came with a peculiar shock.
They realized that they were slowly becoming strangers in their own land. The army came to be looked on as a kind of exile from the life of the nation. The military world had no connections with the life of the country. Two universes were juxtaposed, the one civilian, the other uniformed, and they knew nothing and would continue to know nothing of each other.
If you were to ask me who it is we despise and hate the most, my answer would be, first of all, the war profiteers, businessmen of all kinds, and with them, the professional patriots, the humbugs, the literary gents who dine each day in pyjamas and red leather slippers off a dish of bosh.
Every army was learning to hate the literary gents. A German soldier wrote,
"According to the newspapers, the French were a crowd of degenerates, the English a cowardly lot of shopkeepers, the Russians swine." This mania for disparaging, abusing and calumniating the enemy was so disgusting that I sent a paragraph to an editor. But he returned it with a letter that made me despair. One had to bear in mind public opinion, he said. And thus was that public opinion bred, which the men at the front came in time to spit upon.
The jargon of war on the home front was very different from the language of the fighting men. A British gunner officer received a book of verse one day. The writer had served in his battery.
About your book, I've read it carefully, and candidly, I don't think much of it. The piece about the horses isn't bad, but all the rest, excuse the word, is tripe. The same old tripe we've read 1,000 times. My grief, but we're fed up to the back teeth with war books, war verse, all the eyewash stuff that seems to please the idiots at home. And what's the good of war books if they fail to give civilian readers an idea of what life is like in the firing line? You might have done that much. From you at least, I thought we'd get an inkling of the truth. But no, you rant, rattle, beat your drum and blow your tuppenny trumpet like the rest. Red battle's glory, honor's utmost task, gay jesting faces of undaunted boys. The same old boy's own paper balderdash. Hang it, you can't have clean forgotten things you went to bed with, woke with, smelt and felt. All those long months of boredom streaked with fear, mud, cold, fatigue, sweat, nerve strain, sleeplessness, and men's excreta viscid in the rain, and stiff-legged horses lying by the road, their bloated bellies shimmering green with flies.
The images of war could never fade from the minds of those who knew them, and could scarcely be conceived in the minds of those who didn't.
Arriving home on leave, I went to my aunt's house, and I found that people wanted to take me out to dinners and theatres, and didn't seem to want to know much about what we were doing out on the front. But I did explain to them that the conditions were really terrible, and that the food also was bad, but they didn't want to know at all.
When you stepped off the leave train at Victoria, of course the first effect was just that here you were home for the holidays. But very soon that began to wear off, and at any rate from 1917 onwards, one felt that there was something unreal about leave. I'm bound to say that I got myself into a state of